Understand that when the threats are not apparent, that we put other priorities first. Now maybe we'll put this as a top priority.
Congress is to reconvene tomorrow morning. Leaders say they want to get back to business as usual. David Roma, NPR News, Washington.
Hours after two hijacked planes hit the World Trade Center and the Twin Towers collapsed, a third building at the complex also collapsed. Marianne McCune of member station WNYC reports.
There was yet another boom and dark gray smoke that looked as if it would come pouring up toward a makeshift triage center set up here. Volunteers and doctors and nurses and emergency workers ran for cover, but the smoke and debris headed more east than north. This triage center is still functioning. Emergency workers were expecting the collapse. 7 World Trade Center was still burning, and they had moved a triage center that had been closer to the building so as to avoid being nearby when it collapsed. That strategy seems to have worked. Now it's a waiting game here. There are ambulances, doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, and clergy prepared to receive patients, but very few arriving so far. For NPR News, I'm Marianne McCune in New York.
President Bush will speak to the nation tonight at 8:30 p.m., not 9 p.m. Eastern Time, as announced earlier. This is NPR News.
It's 4:34. Time now for Arizona News. I'm Nelson Warnell. A massive gathering was held at noon today on the Mall at the University of Arizona to discuss the current tragic situation in New York City and Washington, D.C. Members of the university community addressed thousands of students, faculty, and staff. One of the speakers was the president of the Jewish organization on campus, Joel Simon.
No one on this campus was flying that plane. And it's really important for us to remember that and to come together as a community and talk. And I want you to know that the Hillel building is always open for people to talk regardless. And all the buildings on campus are open for people to talk. And we all want to express regret to those of you who are affected, but we're all affected.
U of A President Peter Likens also spoke to the gathering and urged all who attended to remain calm in the coming days. Arizona's elected officials are reacting to today's terrorist attacks in New York and Washington. Governor Hull says it's unbelievable that people can do what has been done this morning. Hull says we can no longer put up with these acts of terrorism. Senator John McCain says these are not just crimes against the U.S., they are acts of war. Senator John Kyle says the U.S. must stand together as a nation to confront these future dangers to national security. Congressman Jim Colby says his heart goes out to the families of those who have been lost. Senate President Randall Gannant says it would be appropriate for each of us to take time to reflect on what this means to us individually and to our nation. Gannant says we will be tested as a country in the coming days and weeks. State Superintendent of Public Instruction Jaime Molera is urging schools across Arizona to begin tomorrow with a moment of silence in honor of the victims of the terrorist attacks. Molera also is urging schools and parents to help organize blood donations for those injured in the attacks. Molera condemned the attacks as senseless acts of cowardice and violence. Updating Tucson weather, tonight mostly clear skies with a low in the low 70s. Tomorrow partly cloudy with a chance of afternoon thunderstorms with a high in the upper 90s. And then looking ahead to Thursday, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunderstorms, high in the mid 90s. Currently skies are mostly sunny. The temperature is 98 degrees on the campus of the University of Arizona. For KUAZ News, I'm Nelson Warnell.
This is special coverage from NPR News. In Washington, I'm Linda Wertheimer.
I'm Noah Adams.
And in New York, I'm Robert Siegel. One of the 4 planes hijacked today, the one that did not reach its target, was United Airlines Flight 93 from Newark to San Francisco. It crashed in Pennsylvania. There were 45 people on board when the jet slammed into a grassy field. NPR's Ken Barkis is about a quarter of a mile from the crash site in south-central Pennsylvania. It's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Ken, how densely populated is the area where the plane went down? What's it look like?
It really is very rural here. As I was coming up here, I actually saw more cows and cattle than I did people. This is corn country. This is rolling hills of Pennsylvania. The plane actually seemed to crash in what is a reclaimed strip mine site. A lot of coal mining around here. The sun's going down now, Robert, and I think we're moving into the next phase here. The FBI special agent in charge says tonight is the night for what they call the forensic archaeologists. that'll give you some idea of the situation at the scene, and that they're actually going digging. They're bringing in huge diesel-powered lights to light up the scene. Tonight, they say the most important thing is to protect the crime scene. Tomorrow, they say they'll start to grid everything out and start to go over it foot by foot.
The governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Ridge, has spoken about this. What has he said?
That's right. He came in, he helicoptered in, he spoke. He said that he had spoke with both Governor Pataki and Governor Gilmore and offered emergency resources, which they may be taking up. Some of the specialists from Search and Rescue Pennsylvania will be going to those states. And he also appealed for people to make blood donations, saying that there's no way, he thought, that the cities could cover the need after the wounded get in.
Governor Pataki because the World Trade Center is in New York, and Governor Gilmore because the Pentagon is in Virginia, I assume.
Exactly.
What the point was there. This was the flight, this was one of the flights, the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, from which I gather there were cell phone calls made by passengers describing what was happening.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth about that. The FBI is very a bit cagey about that. They say there were no reports that they know of Mayday from the pilot. However, there does seem to be a call, at least from one passenger, who was apparently in a bathroom. In the plane. Now they're trying to make sure that that call actually came from the plane. The FBI says they are trying to secure that 911 call tape, unless they haven't already. They're trying to figure out what exact cell it went to, because as the plane keeps flying west, it goes in and out of different 911 zones. So they're trying to locate and secure that tape. They've also had some concerns here today about biohazards. It may be just a common thing, but the reason that the archaeologists have not been digging yet is because they have a lot of hazmat people here. They say they want to make sure it's clear before they start digging.
Is there any indication there at all whether the plane that was, after all, flying west towards San Francisco was still